Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today on the Succah daf Mem Tes. We are going to begin on the very bottom of Mem Chesem at base, 3 lines from the bottom. There was a story about a Saduki, as we mentioned in yesterday's daf. They did not believe that Nisach HaMayim, the water libations, should take place. Shenisach al Gabi Raglav. And therefore what he did was he poured it on his feet. Ragmu kol am esrogayim, similar to our Mishnah, and therefore everyone threw esrogim at him. And on that day, the corner of the mizbeach got broken. Boil shel melach satmuhu, and they took a fistful of salt and they made it square again and completed it. Not that this was actually sufficient, that they were able to now say, okay, we can now use the mizbeach. We didn't want the mizbeach to look disgusting or inappropriate. And Rashi says, covered to show proper respect, we patched it up in this temporary way, even though it really halachically didn't do much. Mem Tesamad Aleph. Shekol mizbeach. Mizbeach has to have a lot of different things. Shekol mizbeach she'ein loy lo keves, if it doesn't have a ramp, loy karen, it doesn't have the corners on the top, lo yisoid, which we said is where the rubber was put, which is the first level, below ribua, and it's not squared, pasal avoida. And Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda omer afa soivev. It also has to have the soivev. So we know it has yisoid, soivev, and then the kronos. So all these different things are necessary. Okay. Omer Rabba bar Bar Chana Rabbi Yochanan. Shisin, when it came to the shisin, in which is the area where the Rashi says the halal is opening, shetachas hamizbeach, underneath the mizbeach, keneged makom hanasachim, which is where the libations were poured, and that's how it went through these liquids. They were actually mesheshes me bracious nivru. This was something which was already thought of all the way back at the earliest times of creation. Shnemar, as the pasuk says, chamuki rechech, literally the rounding of my thigh, kamo chiloyim masede uman, is just like the links of a chain in the actions of a craftsman. So what is this really referring to? Chamuki rechech, what are they referring to? The roundings of my thighs. Elu hashisin. This is referring to, again, this opening under the mizbeach. This kemoi chaloyim shemichayilin v'yardim atatahayim. That it is whole, its whole is hollow and goes all the way down to the very depths. Masire uman, what does that mean? That's zumase yedei umnasa shel Kadosh Baruch Hu. The uman, the ultimate craftsman, namely HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tana deberi b'shmuel. Bracious. What's the very first drasha you can ever say? Arshis bracious. The first word. Bracious. Al tikri bracious ela barashis. Another proof that Hashem had already created the shisin, already understanding all the intricate details of the Beis HaMikdash all the way from the very beginning. Tanya. Rabbi Yossi Omer shisin mechaylin v'yardin atahayim. As we said, that they go all the way down to the very abyss, to the ground, to the very bottom. Shnemar ashira na l'didya, shiras daidi l'karmai, kerem hoya l'didi bekerem ben shemen. So this pasuk in Yeshaya says, let me sing to my beloved this song regarding my vineyard, to my beloved bekerem ben shemen. Then the pasuk continues, v'yizakuhu v'yiskaluhu v'yitahu shayrik v'yivin migdal b'taychai, and he planted this great vine after digging and clearing out the stones. V'yivin migdal b'taychai, and he built a tower. Become Yaakov chatzivloi chaitzivbo. So what exactly is this whole drasha about this Yaakov, which is the vat, which we saw regarding Succah already? This word that you have to gather the schach, the psilus of the garden, the Yaakov. So we drash it like this. Yateu shayrek ze Beis HaMikdash. When it's referring to singing regarding this area, this is referring to the Beis HaMikdash. V'yivin migdal, and a tower should be built. V'taycho in it. Zemizbech. This is the great tower. It's not as tall as a tower, but it certainly is on an elevated status. Begam Yaakov chatzav by elish hashisin. Just like a vat which has wine in it, those were the shisin in which wine went through. Tanya Amr Belezer Tzadik. Lul katan haya, there was this small passageway, bein keves l'mizbech, between the ramp and the mizbech. B'marava shel keves, on the west part of the ramp, the achas l'shimim shana, once in 70 years, pirchei kahuna yarden l'sham, they would go down into this area, u'malaktin misham yain karish. They used to take all the wine that was congealed from the nisach hayayin, shedaim laguli dvela, which looked like the aguli dvela, which are these pressed round figs all together. That's how hardened it became. And they would actually burn this wine with kedusha. Rashi says b'makom kadosh ba'azara. It was done in a makom kadosh. Okay, and Rashi says mitay hashisin moitzian oisan. They took it from there. Shoyis malu hashisin min anasachim. So it shouldn't get completely filled up from the libations. Shekol karbonos at tzibor v'yachid tun in the because all these, every carbon, whether it's tzibor or yachid, requires libations. Chutz mechatzis asham, except for just the chatzis and asham. So there's constantly nisach and yayin, so many wine libations. So they had to clear it out every so often. The sarpanois Rashi says shisurim b'hana to koydeshu. You're not to get any hana from it because it's kodesh, because obviously it was used for the avoda, and therefore it was burned. V'sarpanois b'kedusha shnemer b'kodesh, as with kedusha hasech nesach sheichel Hashem. The libations, they were used, which therefore it comes to show that the shisin, which had the nisach hayayin, it was kadosh, and therefore we had to treat it as such, and therefore we had to burn it. As we can continue to Mem Tes Amud Beis. Kishem, just like Sheni Soichai b'Kedusha, just like the libation was Kedusha, Katsri Fasa b'Kedusha. So we learn out from this pasuk that so too the strafe was Kedusha. B'Kodesh Hasak Nasach Sheichel Hashem. So my mashma, how do we see from this pasuk that that's what it's telling you, that you have to actually burn it? So Omer Ravina Asi Kodesh Kodesh Ksiv Halcha b'Kodesh Hasach Nesach, which again is talking about the Nisach Hayayin. The Ksiv Hasam the Seraftes and Noiser be'esh, they have to burn the leftovers in fire. Lo Yoichel, don't eat it, Ki Kodesh Hu, and therefore that connection is that just like we have to burn certain things that are left over, so too we have to burn the Nisach Hayayin. Kamana Zahad de Tanan. Who is the following statement in Mishnah like? Nesachim, when it comes to the libations, but chila mo'alim behen. A person can violate me'ila, yardu shisin. However, once it now goes into shisin, ein mo'alim behen. So who is that like? So lema Rabbi Lezer bar tzadiki. L'chayra, it's like the sheet of Rabbi Lezer bar tzadik. But this wine is still accessible since it didn't actually go to the tahom. Lafi this man de'omar. Di Rabbanan ha nachtu lahu l'tahoim. According to them, it's already gone all the way down. So afil tem Rabbanan. We're talking about bid'iklit. If let's say it was collected in a vessel, and therefore if it was collected in a vessel, so a person could be moil on this. So you could amir lema Rabbanan v'lo belezer or tzadik. The belezer, according to him, akati b'kedusha sahu kaimi. We said that the kedusha remains. So he said many places of Sechta Shoma, there's three exceptions to this, but typically when a person does a mitzvah, we don't find that me'il can happen to this individual. The time when they did nisach hayayin, poikiken as a shisin, they would actually close up the shisin. The kamash nemer b'kodesh hasach nesach sheichel Hashem. So my mashma that you close it up. So my papa sheicher lashon steal, like drinking, lashon steal, like being satiated, lashon shichros. So therefore it's closed up, and therefore it can then like be opened up, and then you can like when you drink in one quick shot down your throat. That's how it all went down. Amar papa shmamina ki sava inish. When a person wants to become satiated with wine, migrani asava. It's when he takes large gulps from his throat. If a person doesn't have so much wine, he should take large gulps, and therefore it gives him more of a satisfaction, a feeling like he consumed more. Rabbi, akasa de birchasa agmi gmuye, to show the chashivas of a kosher bracha, that's how he would drink it. Darsh Rabba. Ma'idich said, what does the pasuk say when it means when it says in Shir Shir, Ma yapo pamecha benual bas nediv? How great are your walkings and your steps, the daughter of princes. So Ma yapo pamoisehem shel Yisrael. It's referring to the walks and the steps of Klal Yisrael. The Shosh Olam L'Regel. We're praising the Klal Yisrael when they go to Yerushalayim during the Shosh Regol, the Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. Bas nediv. Bito shel Avraham Avinu. We're referring to you, the children, the daughters of Avraham. Shenikru Nediv. He was called a prince. Shenemar Nedivi Amim Nesvu Am Elokei Avraham. Now, why is only he called a prince, and why is it only Elokei Avraham? Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak Yaakov, Elokei Avraham, Sheitchil Legerim, because he was the first of the converts. Says Rash Nediv, Shenidvo Libo, that he dedicated his heart L'hakir es boiro, to recognize Hashem. Tchil Lagerim, Rashi says, B'nedavas libo is gayer. He was the first person to again have the recognition of monotheism and the recognition of God. Tana debei Rabbi Anan, Ma'idach Chamuki Reichecha. So what is this referring to? So we said before this pasuk already, Chamuki Reichecha is coming to allude to the shisin. So now we have a second shot of what does this mean, chamuki reichecha, your thighs. So we're comparing Torah to the thigh. Just like the thigh of a person is part of the body which is certainly hidden and modest, so too when a person learns Torah, that should also be done either learning b'seiser, or it means that a person should not be a balgaiva due to their learning, or that Torah itself will humble you. Behind the Diyamar Belezer, Ma'idach Siv, Higanucha Adam Matoiv, B'ma Hashem Darsh Mimcha. What is the person, are we requesting from you? Kim Aslis Mishma, do just actions. The Yahavas Chesed, love kindness, which is also the name of my synagogue in London, where I was from. The Hisnalechas Imal Kecha, and you should go with humility, walking with humility in front of God. So Asas Mishnah Zadin, B'Avas Chesed Zigulas Chasadim, B'Hisnalechas Imal Kecha. How do you walk humbly and privately? Zu Hatzasames Achnasas Kal L'Chuppah. When you bring the kal to chuppah at a wedding and Hatzasames, it also should be done with an element of sneas. Now, these are things that are typically done in public. When it comes to Hatzasames, there's a lot of people there during a levaya. When it comes to a chuppah, we all know there's thousands of people at a wedding. So Amrata Hisnaleches, perhaps that's goof of the time that we have to be more careful to be modest and not overdo it. So Devarim Shadarkan Asas Masino, things that are just supposed to do privately, things that are supposed to be hidden, that certainly should be done in that fashion. Amr Belezer, Gadol Isa Sadaki Yosef Mikol Karbanos. She says, greater is a person who is engaged in charity more than bringing karbanos to Hashem. Shnamar, Sadaka Mishpat, Nivchar Hashem Mizbech. That when a person is engaged in tzedakah, literally giving charity, that is greater than the mizbech. When it comes to gemilas chasadim, acts of kindness, that actually is greater than charity. When it comes to giving to a person charity, it's like putting seeds in the ground. The kids are lefi chesed. However, when it comes to doing kindness, it's like harvesting. So when it comes to planting, like you give charity, you don't know if you're going to end up eating or not. You're putting seeds in the ground, but you don't know what's going to happen. So you're giving charity to a person, but you don't know what they're going to do with that money. However, once you harvested, it's there, and it's okay. So when it comes to Gemilas Chasadim, you're doing the chesed right then and there. The tzedakah is not completed except with the chesed that's attached to it, which I like to understand what that means, is that a person can give charity, but there's ways to give charity. You can do it in a disgusting, mean way to make that person feel horrible and destroy their self-esteem, or you could do it with chesed. So it's not just doing the act of giving charity, but it's how you do it to make that person feel good. Shnemer zor lachem l'sadaka v'kitzur l'fi chesed. It's l'fi chesed. It's according to the chesed that you do. Tanabam. The shlosh devarim gedol gemilas chasadim yosem sadaka. There's actually three ways that gemilas chasadim not necessarily does it mean here that it's better, but it can be performed in ways that tzedakah cannot be performed. Tzedakah b'mayna gemilas chasadim ben megubah ben b'mayna. Tzedakah means with money. Gemilas chasadim is you could do gemilas chesed with your own body. You can actually engage in the chesed by doing something, or you could use your money. Tzedakah laniyim gemilas chasadim ben laniyim ben lashirim. Tzedakah is to the poor, but you can do chesed to someone who's wealthy. Tzedakah l'chaim gemilas chasadim ben l'chaim ben l'meisim. Tzedakah you give to the living, and when it comes to chesed, like a chesed shalemes of engaging in, for example, shmira, or engaging in doing a tahara for a mace, that obviously again is for the dead. Anyone who engages in tzedakah and mishpat, mili kol kuloi chesed. So you fill the whole world with kindness. Nemar oiv tzedakah mishpat chesed Hashem mali aretz. Shema Taimer, maybe you'll end up saying kol habal lik bites kaifetz. Anyone who wants to fulfill it can easily go and do it. Talmud Lemer my yakar chastecha lokim chesed Hashem mali aretz v'gomer. In other words, it's not something in which is necessarily so simple to accomplish. So a person shouldn't think, it's going to happen, it's no big deal. You have to pursue it. Yochel av Yer Shemayim Kain. You would think also when it comes to Yer Shemayim may also have that difficulty. Any person who has grace, we can understand that person also has fear of Hashem. What does it mean when we sing this every Friday night as part of Eishes Chayil? That our mouth should be open with wisdom, and the Torah of kindness should be on our tongues. So it sounds like there's more than one Torah, chas v'shalom. Now the way I like to read this, so what, it sounds like there's two Torahs. No, there's only one Torah. And the only Torah that exists is Torah's chesed. If you're learning Torah, but it's a Torah she'eno, if it's a Torah, again, Torah l'shma zuhi Torah shel chesed. If you do a Torah l'shma, that's the Torah of chesed. If it's a Torah shelo l'shma, it's not Torah. It's just not Torah. You're not learning for the sake of Torah. You're learning for other reasons. So you're not really connecting to Hashem. Same idea. When it comes to learning Torah, so you can teach it, so therefore that's what Torah is about. It's not just keeping it for yourself. However, if the whole purpose of it is just for yourself and you don't teach it, so that's a Torah which is she'enu shel chesed, which means you're not really engaged in what you're supposed to be engaged in. That's really not the proper purpose of what Torah is all about. Okay, we're going to stop there. Let's see a couple of questions. Question 3. Mahu hanimshul. What is the connection? Lachamuki yirechecha. The pasuk mayafu pamecha benolim chamuki yirechech. So he said it's a great question because there's actually two answers to this question. So either this was question 3. Either it was referring to the shisin of the mizbeach, or it's referring to Torah. Question 4. Mahu hakinoi le'Avraham Avinu demetzinu b'shir hashirim. What was his other name? Nediv, a prince. And then he asked, Umadua Nikrakain. Why was he called that? So that you needed Rashi, because nidvoy libo hakares bayro, that he dedicated his heart and he recognized Hashem. That was question 4. Okay, let's move on to TA 29. Ad heichen hagiu hashisin l'Rabbanan. How far did the shisin actually go? According to the Rabbanan, ma hayu oisin bayayin. What do we do with the wine? Shenitztaver alibed Rabbi Lezer and Yaakov, Reb Tzadok. So, according to the Rabbanan, it went all the way out to home. However, according to the opinion of Rabbi Lezer Bar Tzadok, that he said that once in 70 years they would gather and burn this wine, the kedusha, in the Azara. Okay. Question TB 29. This is an unbelievable question. I can't believe they asked this question. And I actually got 5 out of the 6. A 6 parts to this question. Listen to this. Elu Devarim Akvin b'Mizbech. They wrote Daled L'Kul Yamu Beis Machlokas. So you had to actually know all 6 of them. They didn't give you any break on this question. I'm pretty impressed. I actually got 5 of them right. So it's on the top of Mem Testament Aleph. The Keves, the ramp, Kronos, the Yesod, Ribua, squared. Now Sovev, but there's also Kior, according to the Rabbanan. Now, I'm not sure where it says that, but according to the Shita of the Rabbanan, it says Kior l'Rabbanan. So actually, if you look in Rashi, you have to see this in Rashi, it says Rabbanan Svirhu Zehu Kior. When it says Ma'akved Ksavar Karkov HaMizbech Zehu Saived, V'Hari Nemar Bo Mizbech, Rabbanan Svirhu Zeh Kior, V'Hachi Amrina Mizvachim. So actually, you'd have to know that Rashi. Not only do you have to know the Gemara, all 5 of them in the Gemara has the ramp, the Yesod, the Kronos, I'm not remembering the Soivev, that has to be square, and also the Rashi of Kior. Not an easy question. Hopefully, if they ever ask me that again, I'll know it. Question TB30. Last question on this daf, on this test. Ma appears Torah Chesed. What is a Torah Chesed? One is Torah Shema, is Torah Shel Chesed, and when a person learns Torah for the sake of teaching others, that is Torah Shel Chesed. Ad kan.